Hi everybody, this is Lauren and next to me is Des, and we're bringing a very stranger than fiction story to you tonight. It seems to me that the World Health Organization is at it again.
And yes, very scary in fact. And if you like freedom, if you like human rights, and if you like your government to consider that, then you should watch this video to the very end. Because very soon your government might conspire with 198 other governments worldwide that are literally affiliated with the World Health Organization via the United Nations, and they are coming up with a treaty for how to treat any sickness, like literally anything. It doesn't matter what it is, the sniffles
like
or
the
whatever.
cold I have right
the
now.
cold you have right now, yes.
But it just shows you how democracy is dead. Democracy does not exist in this world, nowhere. And I think that's important to note, that we the people do not govern, we do not have a voice. Governments conspire together at conventions such as this to decide how to control the people, and that basically is politics today in the world, no matter where you are.
So we have a couple of pages open from the World Health Organization, and we will give you the link to those pages so you can go directly to what we are talking about. And the first page that we have open is the World Health Organization and governance. And it speaks here about intergovernmental negotiating body. So I know from South Africa we actually have a representative that is on this panel making decisions for the entire world, because they're going to come up with something, a treaty or something that all these member states will sign and will then abide by this.
And this is basically for pandemic prevention, preparedness and response.
And it says intergovernmental negotiating body to draft and negotiate a World Health Organization convention, agreement or other international instrument on pandemic prevention, preparedness and response. So this has gone through various drafts. They started with this. The first draft was put out on the 24th of February 2022, then again in March, then again in June, July, December, and then in February of this year. And you need to actually understand that they'll be discussing this draft. The portion of the draft we'll be discussing with you, they will be discussing that from the 27th of February, which is very soon, till the 3rd of March. So they'll be meeting for a week to discuss that. And they might actually adopt this.
Frightening stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely frightening.
I remember when I was young, adults used to talk around the table about a future one world government. Well, I think we're here.
Yeah, there's already organizations that are unelected that are going to tell our governments what to do, and our governments will sign treaties with these unelected bodies to say that they will actually follow suit.
For the greater good of humankind.
Yes, of course, for the greater good. So in this final link that we will give you, it's got what they call the zero draft, or this is the first draft that they've come up with. So draft 0 after all of their meetings. And there's a portion that I was drawn to, and it's Article 14 if you go to the index, and it's called Protection of Human Rights. And this is what we're going to focus on.
Article 14, Protection of Human Rights. The parties shall, in accordance with their national laws, incorporate non-discriminatory measures to protect human rights as part of their pandemic prevention, preparedness, response and recovery, with a particular emphasis on the rights of persons in vulnerable situations. This basically means that no one's going to escape their watchful eye.
And the thing is, this might sound wonderful to the untrained eye and ear. However, when you actually continue, and there's not much more, so please stick with us, there's 2 more paragraphs to cover that unearth what this actually means, and we'll be going into that now. So towards this end, each party shall, you shall, and then there's an A and a B, and we're going to go through A and B now with you.
You shall incorporate into its laws and policies human rights protections during public health emergencies, including but not limited to requirements that any limitations on human rights are aligned with international law, including by ensuring that 1. Any restrictions are non-discriminatory, necessary to achieve the public health goal in the least.
So everyone will be restricted.
In the least restrictive necessary to protect the health of the people.
The least restrictions, but they decide what that is. You see, in this case, the World Health Organization will make that decision for you. It's not going to be your government. They are going to tell you what to do worldwide.
Number 2, all protections of rights, including but not limited to provision of health services and social protection programs, are non-discriminatory and take into account the needs of the people at high risk and persons in vulnerable situations. And 3, people living under any restrictions on the freedom of movement, such as quarantines and isolations, have sufficient access to medication, health services, and other necessities and rights.
And someone actually said this morning that it looks like medication in this case is more important than food and water, because they don't actually mention that.
Well, you have to have medication on a full stomach usually.
But the thing is,
after your cockroach bar.
After your cockroach bar. But yeah, it says people living under any restrictions on the freedom of movement, like it's a matter of fact, such as quarantines and isolations, that they have sufficient access to medication, health services, and other necessities and rights. What rights? Your rights have been taken away.
Your rights to not get sick, which the government will protect at all costs.
So actually what they are saying is that if people have rights to go to work and the government has stopped you from working, that they then have the right to do anything in their power to make sure that you are not sick, so that others have the freedom to go to work, when they were the ones removing it from you in the first place. This is absolutely,
dystopian.
Very dystopian.
But real.
Very real. It's right there. You can go and read it yourself. I know it's a lot to go through, but let's go to B and then we can get your thoughts.
Endeavour to develop an independent and inclusive advisory committee to advise the government on human rights protections during public health emergencies, including on the development and implementation of its legal and policy framework and other measures that may be needed to protect human rights.
So, what do you say about this policy framework? Because now they're asking governments to come up with something legally. Literally.
It gives them all power over our lives, because anything can be declared a pandemic. And I think, we've been eating genetically modified food for I don't know how long, and now we have genetically modified viruses and disease, which is a problem, because we can have these health crises thrown at us left, right, and center, and then be completely subject to governments at a level we can't even comprehend, at a level we've only seen in nightmare horror movies.
So you need to think for yourself, especially in your country. Do you think that your country, especially if it's a United Nations member state, that they will adopt this treaty, that they will actually accept this and go along with this? And I've read further through this document, and they cannot force it on any of the member states. At the end of the day, they actually tell you openly that the member state can decide if they want to comply, and then the other member states, if they don't comply with this treaty, can take action accordingly. So this is certainly something that you need to think about within your country. What will your government do, and what will you do if they take your freedom away? It's very clear here where they speak about people in isolation, those restrictions, that for some reason they must give you other necessities and rights. It doesn't specify what. It was like an open-ended thing that they just left there after they spoke about access to medication. Yeah, you will be XYZ'd, and health services. That comes first.
I think it's also creating a complete dependence, a mindset of dependence on the government. Every time there's a threat, the government will save us.
I think that is very important to understand, and especially here in South Africa where we live, our constitution gives government that right.
The right to protect us. We don't have that right.
We don't have the right. The government will protect our lives. You don't have a right to protect your life. And
SAPS to your service.
This is a very, very serious problem that we have. And tell us how you will deal with this in your country if your government signs this treaty or whatever they call it at the end of the day. How do you feel about this? You know, I really hope that people read through these documents. So please go to the links, have a look at what is happening and what might be coming to you very soon. I believe that they are earmarking 2024, early 2024, to implement this worldwide.
International tyranny, or how I'd rather say international terrorism.
Terrorism, absolutely.
We are being terrorized.
That is terrorism. If you look at the definition of terrorism, this is it. And these people say it's for the greater good of all mankind. One health, they call it. One monitoring, tracking and tracing. They speak about monitoring, tracking and tracing extensively, that it needs to be the same everywhere. Everything must be the same everywhere. And how they deal with any sickness, anything. This is not about COVID. This is beyond that. So think about what is happening in your country, what you can do about it. And certainly in our country, South Africa, we will do everything to change the system that we are stuck in so that this cannot happen. And I hope in your country you will do something or find people that will help you do exactly the same thing. Because I don't want my children to live in this kind of dystopia where people that can't make decisions have some unelected organization make decisions for them. And this is proof that democracy does not exist.
And I think what we have is the global community drumming the fear of death into us. Either the earth is dying or we are dying. But the one thing we should be fearing the most is that freedom is dying unless we do something about it.
So if you love freedom, do study these documents, think about what it means for you, and read between the lines. Hopefully this video has helped you to do that. And please remember to share this information with as many people as possible.
Yes, and we love to hear your thoughts in the comments, so please add your say, and let's wait for the next crazy story out of the World Wide Web from somewhere.
Stranger than fiction.